Have you ever wondered why, no matter how many promises you make to yourself, you seem to fall into the same patterns again and again? You wake up determined to change, to finally break the habits that have been holding you back. And yet somewhere between intention and action, the old cycle returns. It's not because you are weak. It's not because you lack discipline. It's because no one ever taught you how to work with your mind instead of fighting against it. In ancient Japan, samurai, monks, and even everyday people used a simple but profound method to dismantle destructive behaviors and build habits that shaped their character for life. That method begins with one principle. Before you change anything, you must learn to see it clearly. The Japanese call this Kansatsu no Kokoro, the observing mind. It is the ability to look at your impulses, your cravings, your reactions, not as commands you must obey, but as movements of the mind passing through you. Imagine for a moment the habit you most want to overcome. Maybe it's procrastination, endlessly delaying the things that would actually move your life forward. Maybe it's the urge to escape into your phone whenever you feel anxious or lonely. Maybe it's anger, overeating, envy, self-sabotage, or the quiet but constant habit of doubting yourself. Whatever it is, it probably feels automatic, like it happens before you even get a chance to choose. But what if that's only because you've never paused long enough to notice the moment where choice actually appears? The technique is almost disarming in its simplicity. Do not fight your bad habits. Observe them. When the urge appears, do not react. Do not judge yourself. Do not try to push it away. Simply watch it. Feel it rise inside your body. Notice the thoughts it brings and stay there, fully conscious, fully present, as if you were a silent witness looking at your own mind from the outside. In Japanese psychology, there is a saying, "The mind seen clearly dissolves," because a habit depends on unconsciousness. It feeds on repetition that happens beneath awareness. When you shine the light of attention on it, the habit loses its automatic nature. It becomes just an urge, just a sensation, just a thought. Imagine your mind as a river. Most people jump into the current and get swept away by every impulse. But the masters sit on the riverbank and watch the water move. Your urges are not you. They are not destiny. They are temporary waves passing through your awareness, and when you observe them without acting on them, something extraordinary happens. The wave rises, peaks, and then fades. You realize you didn't need to obey it. You realize the urge is far less powerful than you believed. And with every moment you watch instead of reacting, you weaken the chain that has held you captive for years. This awareness practice does not destroy the habit instantly. Nothing real works instantly. Instead, it melts the habit from the inside out. The urge appears, you breathe, you watch, you let it pass. The next time, it returns slightly weaker, then weaker still. Little by little, you reclaim control over the places where you once felt powerless. You begin to notice patterns you never saw before. The triggers, the emotions, the stories you tell yourself. The moments where you surrender without realizing it. Awareness becomes a sword, cutting through illusion. And for the first time in a long time, you feel the quiet strength of someone who is no longer controlled by their impulses, but guided by their intention. This is how Japanese masters transformed their inner world, not through force, not through guilt, but through presence. They understood something most people never learn. You cannot change a habit you refuse to look at. But if you observe it with clarity, patience, and courage, the habit loses the power to define you. And in that space, a new version of you begins to emerge, calmer, stronger, more in command of your own life. When you begin to observe your habits with honesty and awareness, something deep inside you starts to shift. The Japanese masters believed that once you see the true nature of a habit, you no longer fight it. You outgrow it. But awareness alone is not the final step. There is another layer to this technique, a second movement that transforms your mind from the inside out. After observing the habit, you perform a small, almost invisible action that points you in the direction of the person you want to become. The Japanese call this Kaizen, the art of continuous microscopic improvement. One breath, one decision, one small action at a time. Most people fail to change because they attempt to rebuild their entire lives overnight. They want to quit every bad habit instantly, become a new person instantly, change their entire identity instantly. But human transformation doesn't work that way. Ancient Japanese philosophy teaches that true change happens in movements so small they almost feel insignificant. Yet those tiny movements, repeated consistently, begin to carve new pathways in your brain. They become the architecture of a new identity. You don't break your bad habits with force. You starve them by feeding new ones. Imagine this. You notice the urge to procrastinate. You feel the familiar tension, the desire to escape, to avoid, to sink back into comfort. You observe it without judgment. You breathe. Then, instead of doing nothing or trying to conquer your entire task list at once, you make one small move. You open the document. You write one sentence. You take one step. This step is not meant to change your life instantly. It is meant to shift your trajectory by even 1 degree. A plane that adjusts its path by 1 degree will end up in a completely different destination. Your life works the same way. The Japanese understood that small actions done consistently are more powerful than large actions done occasionally. And something beautiful begins to happen when you combine observation with small intentional movement. Your brain learns a new pattern. When the urge rises again, your mind remembers that you no longer react automatically. You no longer obey impulses. You respond with awareness. The neural pathway that once carried your bad habit begins to weaken, and the pathway of your new identity begins to strengthen. Day by day, you become the kind of person who chooses their actions instead of being dragged by them. But there is another element, one that makes this technique even more profound: compassion. Japanese wisdom teaches that you cannot build a disciplined life from a place of self-hatred. The samurai trained ruthlessly, yes, but they also understood the importance of gentleness toward the self. Every time you slip, every time the habit wins, every time you fall into the old cycle, you are given a moment of truth. You can choose shame, which only strengthens the habit, or you can choose awareness and compassion, which frees you. You acknowledge what happened, you observe the sequence, and you begin again. No punishment, no drama, no narrative of failure. Just the quiet commitment to return to the path. This is why the Japanese approach is so powerful. It is transformation without violence. You are not forcing yourself into a new life. You are guiding yourself into one. You are not battling your weaknesses. You are illuminating them until they no longer control you. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to notice changes. That habit that once ruled your mornings now feels distant. The craving that once dominated your evenings loses intensity. The behavior that once felt impossible to resist now feels like an echo of who you used to be. As you continue this practice, something even greater emerges. You begin to feel a sense of inner mastery, a quiet strength that does not need to be announced. You trust yourself more. You follow through more often. You stop negotiating with your old identity and start aligning with the person you're becoming. And perhaps the most meaningful transformation of all is that you no longer fear your weaknesses. You understand them. You face them. You disarm them with clarity and action. This Japanese technique does not promise instant change. It promises real change. Change that lasts because it is built on awareness, intention, and compassion rather than pressure and guilt. And as you repeat this process, observe, breathe, choose one small action, you begin to realize that every day is a new opportunity to rebuild yourself. Your habits no longer define you. Your choices do. Your past no longer dictates your future. Your intention does. And your mind, once a place of chaos and confusion, becomes a space of direction, clarity, and quiet power. In the end, you discover something extraordinary. You were never lacking discipline. You were lacking understanding. And once you learn how to treat your mind like the Japanese masters did, with awareness, patience, and precision, you finally gain the ability to destroy every bad habit and build a life shaped by strength, purpose, and self-respect.